Okay, hello everyone. So in the previous class we have discussed about the membrane processes and the pre-treatment of the membrane processes, and we have in the module 3, okay, of water supply and treatment engineering. Okay, so now we'll start with the module 4. Okay, so these are the contents of module 4 as per your syllabus. Okay, so it consists of the softening processes. Okay, so that is, there are various process of softening of water. So in that, in your syllabus you will read about the softening of water using lime soda process, zeolite process, okay, and the RO and nano filtration. Okay, so already we have learnt much about RO and nano filtration in module 3 while we discussed about membrane processes. So here, in addition to that, in this module you will study some basics about the flux, the salt passage and reduction, and the terms like concentration, polarization, and overview of RO and nano filtration, membranes and elements. This also we have already studied in module 3 about the different modules of membranes, that is tubular, spiral, things like that. Okay, and again some conventional pre-treatment techniques which we have also already again covered in module 3. That is, we have studied the various pre-treatment technologies like coagulation, biofiltration, treatment of water using powder activated carbon, okay, or the combination of any of those pre-treatment based on the water quality. Okay, and we learn something about disinfection in module 4. That means what is meant by disinfection, what are the merits and demerits of disinfection, then theory of disinfection, and then emphasis on treatment of water for community bathing, that is Melas and Fair, okay, things like that. Then at last about fluoridation and its problems in water, and also the defluoridation techniques. Okay, so let's begin with the softening process. Okay, so before undergoing the process of softening, first we should know what is meant by hardness or hard water. Okay, so hard water is simply nothing but the presence of dissolved calcium and magnesium in the water. Okay, of course water may contain also other minerals, but hardness is predominantly caused due to the calcium and magnesium ions. Okay, the term hardness was originally applied to the waters that were hard to wash in, that is, it used to consume more amount of soap and it would not easily allow the lather to be formed during washing of the clothes, and also it may lead to the curdy precipitate in the water. Okay, and sometimes upon heating it also used to cause the scale formations. These are some of the signs of the hard water. And also this presence of calcium and magnesium salts, so they will result in scaling of pipes, or it is called as encrustation of pipes, that is deposition of the calcium and magnesium inside the pipes. Okay, thereby reducing the carrying capacity and ultimately corroding the pipes. Then you can see these kinds of white precipitate and scale formation in water filters and water heaters. That means you might have used the water heaters for heating water with a coil in your homes. Then if the water is hard, upon heating you will be finding some white color precipitate after heating. That is predominantly due to this calcium and magnesium ions due to the precipitation upon boiling. Okay, and it also causes numerous problems in laundry, kitchen, as well as in bathing. Okay, see, unit of hardness is parts per million, and it is expressed as calcium carbonate equivalent, okay, or milligram per liter. See, this I have already told you in the previous slide that what are the problems and symptoms of the hardness. That is, it will have stiff and dingy laundry, that is the cloths will be affected if you use the hard water. Then mineral deposition on dishwashers and glasswares. Okay, you can see some deposition on the eating plates and other glasswares and related things in your kitchen if the hard water is used for washing those things. Then high soap usage, and it needs the softening for the fabrics because of the hardness. Then it requires extra work to remove the soap curds on bathtubs and shower stalls. Okay, and it uses high energy cost due to the buildup of scales in pipes and appurtenances. It also builds up in sinks, tubs, faucets and other appliances. It causes industrial problems like scaling and encrustation in pipes, and also this is the major industrial problem when you use the boiler, because the boiler contains very small tubes or pipes wherein the water is converted into steam, and this upon heating, if the water is hard, the encrustation of pipes happens, which will reduce the efficiency of the boiler, and this is a major problem in most of the industries where we use the boiler operations, and that's why we have to install a demineralization plant or a softening plant before using the water for boiling operations. Then ultimately it will lead to the corrosion of pipes and reducing the carrying capacity of the pipes. Okay, like I told you, also it affects the efficiency of the boiler by the encrustation of small pipes or blockage of boiler tubes. Then we have something called as temporary and permanent hardness. Okay, so this hardness is usually classified into two types, that is temporary hardness and permanent hardness. Okay, or sometimes it is also called as carbonate hardness and non-carbonate hardness. Okay, so temporary hardness is caused due to the presence of bicarbonates and carbonates of calcium and magnesium, as you can see here. Okay, similarly, that's why it is also called as carbonate hardness. So on this side, the permanent hardness is caused due to the chloride, sulfates, phosphates or any other salts of this calcium and magnesium. Then we call it as permanent hardness. Okay, so this temporary hardness can be easily removed by simple boiling, so that all these calcium and magnesium ions get precipitated in the form of a white precipitate. So this in permanent hardness, it cannot be removed by boiling. Okay, here we need some extra effort to remove the permanent hardness, that is maybe with the help of ion exchange process or the passing the water to the bed of zeolite, or maybe usage of the membrane technologies. Here in this case, hardness removal is cheap because we just boil the water. Here it is expensive because we use different processes. Okay, see this you can see, if the hardness upon removal, so it will yield the precipitate as calcium bicarbonate and calcium carbonate. Here in this case, it will be lead to the formation of calcium sulfate. Okay, if the hardness causing ion is due to the sulfate ion, that is calcium sulfate. Okay, so next you have the hardness removal process. Okay, so under that, in your syllabus, the first one is called as lime soda process. Okay, so here in this process, the soda lime is used to remove the hardness. Okay, and nowadays this process is obsolete, and but it was very useful for the treatment of large volumes of the hard water. Okay, so nowadays, since the technological advancements have taken place, so people use the advanced methods like membrane processes and usage of the resins in the softening of the water. Okay, so this process consists of the lime, that is addition of lime, calcium oxide and soda, that is sodium carbonate, to the hard water, so which will be precipitates calcium as the carbonate and magnesium as its hydroxide. Okay, so we'll see in the chemical reactions what is going to happen if you add the lime and soda to the water. That's why it is called as lime soda process. Okay, so it is carried out in two processes, either hot process or cold process. It uses the lime, that is calcium and hydroxide, and soda ash, that is sodium carbonate to reduce the hardness. Okay, so thereby precipitating the calcium and magnesium salts as insoluble calcium carbonate and magnesium hydroxide respectively. Okay, it is also used in the preparation of caustic soda, that is nothing but sodium hydroxide, by mixing slaked lime with soda and filtering of the precipitate calcium carbonate. Okay, so now coming to chemistry of this process. Okay, so there are series of reactions which will happen in this process. So initially in the first equation or the first step, you can see this calcium hydroxide reacts with carbon dioxide to form the calcium carbonate along with the water. Okay, so then here the lime will react with carbonate hardness as follows, that is calcium hydroxide is lime plus calcium bicarbonate is the hardness, then it is precipitated as calcium carbonate along with the water. Okay, and this lime along, if here you can see the calcium carbonate, so hardness is caused due to the both carbonates and bicarbonates of calcium and magnesium. So here same step is repeated with respect to the magnesium bicarbonate. Here you can see the calcium ion is replaced by this magnesium ion here. Okay, so but the change here is it will also precipitate the calcium carbonate along with the magnesium carbonate. Okay, so this is the equation 3. Okay, here out of this the product magnesium carbonate is soluble. Okay, so to remove it more lime is added again. Okay, since it is soluble in ether, that is this MgCO3, that's why this lime is added. That is in the next step the calcium hydroxide plus magnesium carbonate will lead to the calcium carbonate plus magnesium hydroxide. If you add the excess of lime, then that can be precipitated. Also magnesium non-carbonate hardness such as magnesium sulfate is removed if you add the lime. That is, if you have the magnesium sulfate, then it is precipitated as the CaSO4 plus magnesium hydroxide, okay, as precipitate. Okay, so lime addition removes only magnesium hardness and calcium hardness. In equation 5, magnesium is precipitated, however an equivalent amount of calcium is added. The water now contains the original calcium carbonate hardness and the calcium non-carbonate hardness produced in the above equation 5. Then soda ash is added to remove the calcium non-carbonate hardness. Okay, so non-carbonate hardness means, as you can see, the hardness will be not containing the carbonates of calcium and magnesium, whereas you see the calcium sulfate and magnesium sulfate here, that is nothing but the permanent hardness. Okay, so here the sodium carbonate is added with this calcium sulfate, which will lead to the formation of sodium sulfate and calcium carbonate as the precipitate. To precipitate the calcium carbonate, a required pH is about 9.5, and also to precipitate magnesium hydroxide, the required pH is about 10.8. So in order to achieve this higher pH, an excess of lime about 1.25 mg per liter is added to raise the pH, so that this precipitation will occur at higher pH of the order of 9.5 to 10.8. In order to maintain that pH, an addition or excess of lime is added. Okay, then after softening, the water will have high pH and contain the excess lime and the magnesium hydroxide and the calcium carbonate that did not precipitate at the end of the process. So that is why we do a process called as recarbonation, that is adding carbon dioxide, that is used to stabilize the water. The excess lime and magnesium hydroxide are stabilized by adding carbon dioxide. So if you induce the carbon dioxide in the process, then it will also reduce the pH. Okay, because higher pH is also it causes the problems after treatment. Okay, the water pH of the water should be optimum. Okay, see, this is what the recarbonation, that is the calcium and magnesium hydroxide mixes with the carbon dioxide to precipitate the calcium carbonate plus water. Okay, and you will get the magnesium carbonate in this case and along with the water. See, further recarbonation will bring the pH to about 8.5 and stabilize the calcium carbonate as the following, that is carbon dioxide plus calcium carbonate along with the water and the calcium bicarbonate. Okay, then what are the limitations of this lime soda process? Okay, lime soda softening process cannot produce a water at completely free of hardness because of solubility of the calcium carbonate and magnesium hydroxide. Okay, so thus the minimum calcium hardness can be achieved is about 30 mg per liter as CaCO3 equivalent, and the magnesium hardness is about 10 mg per liter as CuCO3. That means we cannot completely remove the hardness by using this process. There will be some residual calcium hardness, okay, present, and magnesium hardness present in the order of 30 mg and 10 mg per liter respectively. Okay, so normally we tolerate a total hardness on the order of 75 to 115 or 120 mg per liter as CuCO3, but whereas the magnesium content should not exceed 40 mg per liter as CuCO3. That means the water should contain some moderate hardness for the drinking purposes, otherwise the complete demineralization of water is not suitable for drinking purposes. That is why we have this range of hardness in drinking water in the order of 75 to mg per liter, 120 mg per liter. Okay, then we have the zeolite process of softening. Okay, so this is another method of softening the water. Zeolite is nothing but hydrated sodium aluminum silicate. Zeolites are also known as permutates. Zeolite is capable of exchanging reversibly sodium ions for hardness producing ions in water. So chemically, zeolite is the sodium aluminate and the sodium SiO2 with water. So here X may range from 2 to 10 and Y from 2 to 6. Okay, so this is the chemical structure of the zeolite. Okay, so there are two types of zeolites, that is natural zeolite and synthetic zeolite. Natural zeolite are non-porous. For example, the natrolite, that is Na2O Al2O3 into SiO2 and H2O. So this is the example of natural zeolite. So then we also have some synthetic zeolites available commercially. Synthetic zeolites are porous and possess good structure. Okay, so they are prepared by heating together china clay, feldspar and soda ash. Such zeolites possess higher exchange capacity per unit weight than natural zeolite because of the obvious reasons that they are porous. Okay, then this is the process of softening of the water. For softening of the water by zeolite process, hard water is percolated at a specified rate through a bed of zeolite kept in a cylinder. Okay, the hardness causing ions, that is calcium, the divalent ions of calcium and magnesium, are retained by the zeolite as CaZe and MgZe, that is calcium Ze and magnesium Ze, while the outgoing water contains the sodium salt. Okay, so this is the process of zeolite in the softening of the water. Okay, so then this is the waistline, this is the bed of zeolite through which the water is passed, and this is the inlet of the hard water, and this is the outlet of the salt water. When you pass the water through the bed of zeolite, then the calcium and magnesium ions are removed as CaZe and MgZe, thereby removing the hardness. Okay, and these are the reactions, that is Na2Ze will react with calcium carbonate, Na2Ze will react with magnesium carbonate, and you will get the precipitate of this. You will get the removal of the CaZe along with the sodium bicarbonate. Similarly, for magnesium, is removal happens along with the liberation of sodium carbonate. Okay, so this is the zeolite material and this is the hardness causing ions. Similarly, the same zeolite, if it is used for the calcium carbonate, or that is for the non-carbonate hardness, you can see calcium carbonate or calcium sulfate, magnesium chloride or magnesium sulfate, you will be getting as the removal in the form of CaZe and MgZe with the sodium chloride if it is a chloride, and the sodium sulfate if it is the calcium sulfate and magnesium sulfate. Okay, so this is the zeolite and this is the hardness causing ions or salt, and this is the removal after removal by passing through the bed of zeolite. Okay, then after some time the zeolite is completely converted into calcium and magnesium zeolite, and it ceases to soften the water, that is it gets exhausted. At this stage the supply of hot water is stopped and exhausted zeolite is reclaimed by treating the bed with concentrated brine solution, that is 10% NaCl solution. So this is done in order to regenerate the exhausted zeolite, and this process we call it as regeneration process. Okay, so that is the exhausted zeolite will be in the form of CaMg or MgZe, sorry CaZe or MgZe. So if you mix with the brine, that is 10% of concentrated sodium chloride solution, then the zeolite is reclaimed in the form of Na2Ze, that is sodium zeolite, plus calcium chloride or MgCl2 will get the it is washings. Okay, so these washings contain the calcium chloride and magnesium chloride. They are led to drain and regenerated zeolite best thus obtained can be used again for the softening process. That's why this regeneration can be done in the zeolite process. Okay, so these are some of the limitations of zeolite process. Okay, if the supply of water is turbid, the suspended matter must be initially removed before, that is with the process of coagulation and filtration. That is, this needs the pre-treatment before the water is admitted to the zeolite bed. Otherwise the turbidity which is present or the suspended solids which are present will block the pores of zeolite bed, thereby making it inactivity and the hardness removal efficiency get reduced. Okay, if water contains large quantity of colored ions such as Mn2 plus and Fe2 plus, that is manganese and iron, they must be removed first, because these ions produce manganese and iron zeolite which cannot be easily regenerated. Okay, so now that is why these have to be removed when you use the zeolite process for softening. Then the mineral acids present in the water will destroy the zeolite bed, and therefore it must be neutralized with soda before admitting the water to the zeolite softening plant. Okay, so these are some of the advantages of the zeolite process. It removes the hardness almost completely, and water of about 10 ppm hardness is produced. In earlier process we saw that the hardness was retained in the order of 30 to 10 mg per liter with respect to calcium and magnesium respectively. Here we can produce the water with only 10% of hardness retained, that is it is little bit more efficient than the lime soda process. Okay, the equipment used is compact and it occupies very small space. Okay, here no impurities are precipitated, so there is no danger of sludge formation in treating water at a later stage. Okay, and the process automatically adjusts itself for variation in hardness of incoming water, and this process is quite clean, and also it requires less time for softening. It requires less skill for maintenance as well as the operation, and also here the zeolite can be regenerated, and that is also one of the advantage of this process. Okay, so these advantages of the process is the treated water contains more sodium and more sodium salts than in the lime soda process. Okay, here the method only replaces calcium and magnesium ions but leaves all the acidic ions like carbonate and bicarbonate as such in softened water. Okay, when such softened water containing sodium carbonate and sodium bicarbonate is used in boilers for steam generation, the sodium bicarbonate decomposes the carbon dioxide which causes corrosion, and sodium carbonate hydrolyzes to sodium hydroxide which causes the caustic embrittlement, that is it damages the pipe and appurtenances if you use this water in industrial processes. Okay, here high turbid water cannot be treated efficiently because the turbidity causing compounds will block the pores of the zeolite bloods, thereby causing the problem with the working, and the softening is affected. Okay, then we have seen the overview of nano filtration and RO filtration already in the previous module, that is the pore sizes, then what is the technology, how the pressure is applied across the membrane, and what is the membrane size and modules, etc. In the module 4 again it is repeated. Okay, so I'll just go through, okay, because it is there in the syllabus. This we have already studied. Okay, so nanofiltration is nothing but the membrane having the 0.01 size of pore size of 0.01 microns of pore size diameter. Okay, so it removes nearly all removes most organic molecules and nearly all viruses. Okay, and it also removes the divalent ions which makes the water hard. So that's why this process can also be used for the softening of the hard water. So remember, before reverse osmosis membranes came into existence, most of the water treatment plants in US and other parts of the globe use nanofiltration for softening of the water. Okay, and slowly it is losing its value because of the invention of the RO membranes, which are most effective in the water treatment nowadays. Okay, then these are some of the applications of nanofilter. It removes pesticides from groundwater, it removes heavy metals from wastewater. Then wastewater recycling can be done in the laundries using this nanofiltration technique, and it also used in water softening and nitrate removal. So please note, whatever is not covered in module 3, I am just trying to cover here. Okay, so next, reverse osmosis. Okay, as you have already studied about this, so it contains the pore size of 0.0001 micron. Okay, and after water passes through a RO filter, then it is considered as essentially pure. But please remember, this will also remove the essential minerals from the water like calcium and magnesium, which has to be again added to make the water fit for drinking. Okay, and also it removes the most of the viruses present in the water. That's why this process is most efficient in drinking water. Okay, and details of the process and working is already covered in the previous module. Okay, so this is the one that is again, so this is repeated here this is the membrane, this is the brine, this is water. Okay, and this is the same osmotic level, and this is the process of reverse osmosis, wherein the pressure is applied at a higher concentrated area so that the salt will be retained and only the water will move into the other region. Okay, so this is the process and theory behind the reverse osmosis processes. Okay, see again the applications of RO are: it is used in water softening, it is also used in drinking water production, it is used to process water production, and it is used to produce the ultra pure water, that is in the electronic industries and all, wherein we require water with zero hardness sometimes. Okay, and the neutral water. So this RO process can be used apart from the distillation and double distillation processes because of its efficiency. Then the concentration of molecular solvents for food and dairy industries. Okay, so these are RO membranes are widely used. Okay, then pre-treatment and its advantages. So this we have already again studied. Okay, so pre-treatment is done before any membrane processes so that the membranes have longer life. Okay, and the production time of the installation can be extended. It becomes easy to manage, the employment costs are lower. Okay, so it will have the better feed, the treated water quality and better permeate quality, and also it will reduce the fouling due to the bacterial deposition. These are some of the advantages of the pre-treatments. Okay, so next to pre-treatment, we can perform a chemical dosage or anti-scalant to prevent the scaling and precipitation of soluble solids such as calcium carbonate and barium sulfate on the membrane surfaces. Okay, so that is, the scaling will happen on the membrane due to the deposition of the hardness causing minerals and other chemicals present in the water. Okay, to reduce or to remove the scaling, we apply the strong acids like HCl and sulfuric acid for the process of anti-scaling. Okay, it will act as anti-scalant, that is, it will not allow the formation of scales on the membrane processes. Normally sulfuric acid is mostly used chemical for the process of anti-scaling. However, HCl is applied more and more because sulfuric acid can negatively influence the falling speed of a membrane. Okay, so based on the membrane characteristics, we can use the HCl and H2SO4. Okay, so membrane processes are the adequate and efficient water treatment methods with some limitations. That's why we should carefully select the membrane processes based on our usage for different applications of treatment of the water. Okay, so that's all for today. Okay, in the next class we will talk about the normalization, then salt passage and reduction contents.